Hey everybody, this is Sheets, obviously, and we're going to be doing our early look of the MLB slate for tonight, Monday, August 28th. I'm going to be doing the solo today. Bobby is without internet, I believe. I was able to hook up with him over the weekend. I had to go out to Las Vegas to enter the Circa Survivor pool. You have to enter these things in person, even though you can hire a proxy to put your picks in. So I have to go once a year to do that. I was there for about 24 hours, and I was able to hook up with Bobby for dinner. It was good to see him. And I know he had to go somewhere else afterwards. So he and he just messaged me that he's out of internet today. So I'm going to be doing this solo. So what we're going to do is we are going to go through the slate. We'll do it kind of both ways. We'll do some game by game, I guess. We'll also take an overall slate view. Then we're going to mess around with SaberSim and do some builds. And we're just kind of going to see where this takes us. First of all, shout out to Bobby for winning money gambling in Las Vegas. We'll tell you about that next time we're here. I think he won money in something. I think it was in roulette. So good on him. Anyway, a lot of stuff going on. MLB is kind of, I would say, winding down, but headed towards the playoffs, I guess. Football is right around the corner. The U.S. Open is going in tennis. There's probably a hiatus in golf for a little while. MMA is a couple of more slates before it goes on a couple of week hiatus as well. And we're going to try to cover everything. And we will go ahead. I'll try my best to get to all of these questions regarding that are coming up into the chat. But let me share my screen, and we'll just kind of get going here. Entire screen. Okay. First thing we're going to do, just take a quick look at the slate. Now, there's very little, first of all, with respect to weather that's going on. There's at least right now, the one game that has the most weather issues is in Colorado, which is obviously pretty important. You have Atlanta playing in Colorado. It's going to, obviously project really well. So we have to keep an eye on that. Although they usually play these games in Colorado, even if they have to wait them out. So I'm not worried too much about that quite yet. The White Sox-Baltimore game is kind of yellow. I mean, doesn't really rate to be a rain out, but obviously we'll keep an eye on that. So you have a full 12-game slate with not that many weather issues. It's pretty not straightforward, but it's a pretty common slate. One thing that's kind of uncommon is the pricing of the hitting. They finally priced some guys up. This is the first time, at least I've seen in MLB, where you have a guy over 7K, and that's Ronald Acuna. And listen, if you're going to put a guy at 7K, it's going to be in Colorado, and that's just the way it is. But you have a full, complement of players that are above 6K, and it's within the last couple of years, that's just been pretty rare, and now it's just very common. So you would imagine then that most optimal builds are probably going to start paying down for pitching a little bit more. Either that, or we're going to just not play these top hitters. But the thing is that, the variance in the hitting is so severe that you can't, let's put it another way, you can let a pitcher get 35 to 40 fantasy points. You can let a pitcher get 35 fantasy points and still win if you don't have them. But it's really hard when you have like hitters that project for 12, go off for 40, and you don't have them. That's very difficult. I like that DraftKings has done this, and I'm going to be very curious to see what SaberSim does with these builds at the end of this session here. I haven't made any SaberSim builds on purpose, just to kind of see what it does. And then we're also going to experiment with kind of some different ways of building lineups using SaberSim. Again, I'm here myself, so I can call the shots. So we're just going to go ahead and do this. You want to go game by game? I mean, we'll do what we do a lot. I'm going to blast through these really quickly with my 5-second view of what I think the game should look like. Then I'm going to go right into the sheets and the projections. So you said White Sox at Baltimore. I imagine that Rodriguez at 7,500 against the White Sox is going to project really well. Kopech 6,300 is pretty cheap also, but Baltimore probably is going to rate as a good stack. Although again, Atlanta's at Colorado, so that's what we're kind of fighting. Washington, Toronto, Kevin Gausman 11-2. It's going to be one of those cases where you're going to want to get to him, but if you do, you don't get to play Atlanta, so it's going to be a difficult choice. Josiah Gray, not as cheap as he sometimes is, so I probably won't play him. But Toronto is going to look like a good stack on the other side. Houston against Boston, you have two pitchers here, Chris Sale and Javier, who are kind of confusing. I don't think I have much confidence in either. If anything, I might go with the hitting on the other side. Texas Mets, John Gray probably is going to rate to be a decent mid-range play here, and I would imagine that Texas would be more of a stack here than McGill would be a pitcher to play. Cleveland, Minnesota, Maeda probably is probably a decent option, although 9,200 seems pretty expensive. Curry's a guy we always try to attack, so I imagine Minnesota is going to look like good value here. I'm just guessing. San Diego, St. Louis, Blake Snell, premier option on every slate. And St. Louis really hasn't hit anybody recently. Adam Wainwright, on the one hand, he hasn't gotten anybody out like ever, and he's against San Diego, but he's only 5K. So if you want to get to Atlanta, maybe it's not the worst idea in the world. Milwaukee, Chicago, two pitchers I probably won't play. Milwaukee, depends on the wind and the weather here. If this turns out to be a wind game, it's probably a good idea to play both of these stacks, especially when you're looking for an Atlanta pivot. But I think right now wind is kind of blowing in a little bit, or at least side winds or crosswinds, so it's not a big deal. Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Oviedo seems cheap enough. And Greinke, again, under normal circumstance, we wouldn't play him. But, if you want to get to Atlanta, this is what you're going to have to do on slates like this. Atlanta, Colorado, I mentioned this already. Atlanta's probably going to – I'll be very shocked if they didn't project to be the best stack on the board. Colorado, not as much, and neither pitcher. Oakland, Seattle, Wu, probably a good value option. I imagine he's going to be highly owned. I think him alongside of Rodriguez, without even seeing the projections, are both going to be well projected and well owned. Seattle, they score 30 runs a game, so I imagine they're going to look really good. Cincinnati, San Francisco. Ooh, you got two kind of young dudes who might take some ownership here. Abbott is expensive, but when he gets it going, he can get it going. And this guy, Kevin Harrison, Kyle Harrison, he gave up some runs, but he mowed people down against Philadelphia in his first outing. So I imagine he's going to be pretty popular just because of the strikeout upside. And again, because you probably want to try to pay down. And then Dodgers, Arizona. Zach Allen's really good, but I don't want to mess with the Dodgers. And Zach Allen's really good, so I don't want to play the Dodgers. Bobby Miller, be an okay pivot, I suppose, at 8,800. Not terrible. Arizona, I just think they're much better options. So that's kind of like the overall, literally the 70,000-foot view of the slate. But let's get into the projections and see what they look like. And we will do both sides, but let's just first start with my sheets for DraftKings. And we are sorting everything by sheets value score. And the first thing you'll notice is that the top sheets value score is not a pitcher. It's a 2K hitter from that Colorado game. So that's something to keep in mind. But let's take a look at the pitchers here. And as I mentioned, Grayson Rodriguez looks to be one of the top options, as does Kevin Gausman, as does Kyle Harrison, as I mentioned. So you have these three dudes, and they're completely different things. You know what I mean? Like you play Gausman, you're walking down one path, right? As far as your lineup construction goes. Where if you play Grayson Rodriguez, you're walking down another. Right? Because it's a question of whether you want to pay up for hitting or pay up for pitching. That's it. Now, I imagine that the chalk construction is going to play both of them, right? To play something like Gausman and Rodriguez, depending on what you can get for that. And we're gonna do some hand builds so we can kind of see what you can actually get for it. But you'd think that that's what you'd start off with in cash games, is maybe Gausman and Rodriguez, and you see they're going to be the highest owned as well. But the Kyle Harrison looks pretty reasonable here at only 10% ownership. Just to kind of see what he looks like on the in the game logs. You see, in his first game, he only managed 3 1/3 innings, but he did have 5 strikeouts. And if you read through, he had a big strikeout rate in the minors also. So that's gonna produce a pretty decent projection. Even though it's just, it's on the surface, it's just, what's it? He made it through 3 1/3, 5 hits, 2 runs, including a home run, I think. But I mean, this is significant upside at this price. Okay, so that's at the top of the list here is going to be Harrison, Rodriguez, and Gausman. And then you drop down. It is a pretty reasonable drop down to these next group, and that would be Brian Wu. Brian Wu kind of stands by himself as the next one. You'll notice you get all the way down to here before you get to Blake Snell, and this is very surprising to me. I would have thought that Blake Snell would project a little bit better. I mean, what kind of world is this where I have Grayson Rodriguez projecting about the same as Blake Snell? That's pretty interesting. But nonetheless, that's just what I see. So on DraftKings, Blake Snell is probably going to be sort of, I guess, ignored a little bit. Not ignored, but it's not going to be the top option. Then you get down to Maeda, but once you get down to here, you're really sacrificing a decent amount as far as projection goes. So I don't think I'm gonna. I mean, the hand-built stuff, I'm probably gonna stick with these 3 guys. Rodriguez, Gausman, and Harrison, and obviously the cool, and then maybe Brian Wu, and obviously the cool, sexy play is to do something like, Harrison and Rodriguez, and then see what that will buy you. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at the hitting, and then we'll go ahead and build some hand builds, and then we'll do some Saberson builds as well. So we will pull up the DraftKings stack sheet, which I have, and again, for those of you that are here the first time, I mean, we sort them in many different ways, but the most important is row B and row H, really. It's whether they look good as just kind of a raw upside projected stack, or whether salary adjusted they look really good. And if you can get teams that fit both categories, then obviously they're really strong. And if you can get teams that fit either category that are really low owned, that's really strong. And if you get teams that can fit both categories and are also really low owned, that's obviously super strong. That's very difficult to do. But let's just see. When you rate these by raw stacks, I will tell you one thing that's very interesting to me is that I would actually have expected the gap between the Atlanta projection and everybody else to be a little bit higher, actually. Sometimes when you get these elite teams in the elite spot like this in Colorado, their stack, their rating is usually like 10 points higher. But here, they're only 6 points higher than, say, San Diego, and 8 points higher than Boston and Texas. So I do think that they are fadeable, okay, to say the least. And when you look down here, you see like San Diego, for example. They're a little bit worse, but they're certainly, you get an ownership discount. And then you go down a little more to say Boston and Texas, and again, I mean and then Houston. I mean, all 3 of these teams look a little bit worse, but you're getting a decent ownership discount. And then as Travis is kind of bringing up here, you get the greatest freaking offense in history. You got the freaking Seattle Mariners who score 15 runs a game, just sitting there, right below, not right below, they're significantly below Atlanta, but hell, they're facing a lefty, so you get to play all those righties that we like to play, and you get Cal Raleigh, who's essentially the greatest hitting catcher in the history of the United States. I mean, it certainly looks like a strong play. But then even you play, say, Baltimore, who was similar Seattle, maybe a little lower owned. So there are things that you can do here, you know. Now, when you rate them by value, you know, when you rate them by value, you get a really different picture. You know, you get Cleveland rating as clearly the highest, the best value stack on the board. Okay, and we're going to get back to what that means in a minute. And then you get down to these other teams that we haven't seen yet, like Milwaukee. There's Atlanta again, you know, which means they're probably a pretty good play. Toronto, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Colorado. So we have totally different teams pretty much in value, this modified stack score, as opposed to raw stack. And it doesn't always happen that way. A lot of times you have these teams that overlap, but here, just to kind of remind you, you look at the raw stack, it's just one total group of teams. The closest thing you can get is Milwaukee, like rated 8th, as opposed to in the modified stack, they're second. So if you want to like really the pure play, it would be probably Milwaukee. I'm a little bit afraid of the wind maybe blowing in Chicago, so I have to take a look at it. But that to me would be, you know, if you get the go ahead as far as the wind goes, I think that the Milwaukee thing would be the purest because you get them both in modified and in raw points, and they're low owned. So that's what we're actually going to play with. We're going to play with a couple of constructions. We're going to play with, we'll do one with Milwaukee. We'll do one with, no, we'll get to Cleveland in a second. So what do you do with Cleveland? So because Cleveland rates so high from a value perspective, that's what you're going to probably have to do if you want to play something like, I mean, definitely if you want to play both Snell and Gausman and Snell. I don't even think you do that. But I wonder if you play both Rodriguez, and even if you play Rodriguez and Gausman, if you have to go down to Cleveland. I think that's probably going to be the case, but we'll see. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to build 3 different handle lineups. We're going to build a Milwaukee, we're going to build an Atlanta, and we're going to build a Seattle. Okay, fair enough. All right, so let's start. Now let's start with Atlanta, just for fun. Let's see what we can do. Look at some of these prices of all these guys. So let's just to see what this would cost us, and I love it. I love that they're making us think about this. What I like to do is first see which guys appear in both the raw stack iteration and the modified stack iteration. So you see you have Acuna, Ozuna, and Harris. So we're going to start with those. So it's going to be Acuna, Ozuna, and Harris. Look at this. Look at these prices. Wow. If you wanted to do a 5-man stack, you would have to, I would imagine, take the rest from here. So I would say Pilar and Arcia would be what you would have to do. So let's just see. Can I even do that? No, that's another outfielder. That's Arcia. Now, Arcia, hopefully he plays. I mean, if Albies is back, he might not even play. So if you, who's a 5th guy you could play from here? You play Vaughn Grisham if he gets in. So let's put in, just for the hell of it, like Vaughn Grisham. So what, if you wanted to play a 5-man Atlanta stack, let's just see if you could play, by the way, Gausman or Rodriguez. I doubt it, but let's just confirm that. Grayson Rodriguez, no. So you literally, even if you played Grisham and Arcia, you mathematically cannot play Gausman and Rodriguez and play these 5 guys. Okay, and that doesn't, you know, that we're not even. Yeah, so that's that. What you're gonna have to do if you want to play like a 5-man Atlanta is play Rodriguez with, say, what was the guy's name, with Harrison. So if you play Harrison or Rodriguez, or what's his name, the guy from St. Louis, not Mikolas, Wainwright. If you play with Wainwright, then you can afford this. So that is what you're going to have to do. All right. Now, how do you kind of fill this in? I mean, you could probably, I would imagine, play guys from that Cleveland stack. So it would be like, let me see what Cleveland looks like. Cleveland catcher would be, what would be, Haas probably? Or you could play Bo Naylor. That would work. Who else is first base? Is not Quan. Can you get to Ramirez? Probably not, right? You can almost do this. You can almost get to Ramirez. Almost. So that's basically the idea. All right. So if you're going to play Atlanta, this is going to be your pairing. Okay. It's going to be Harrison and Rodriguez. And I got no problem doing that, by the way. Okay. Next. Let's clear the decks. And what are we going to do? Seattle and Milwaukee. Well, we'll do a full Cleveland stack too, just for the hell of it. Let's do the Cleveland one first, just to see what this looks like. Okay. Let's see what you can really get if you played a full 5-man Cleveland stack. So we need guys from both of these lists. So we have Ramirez, Laureano, and Quan to start off with. So let's start with that. Ramirez, Laureano, 2,900, and Quan. Okay, that's strong. And let's see what else we can stick in there. So it would be Jimenez, Gonzalez. Oh, Gonzalez too. So we'll put him in. He's only 2,300. So you could probably get the other guy also. These guys are all so cheap. What's Jimenez? He's 3,900. So if you played a 5-man Cleveland stack, for example, I mean, now you can do some stuff. As a matter of fact, I mean, I wonder what you could play. You can get to Wu if you wanted. I mean, easily. It's like just a totally different thing. You know, you could certainly play Gausman Rodriguez, but you could even move up. Can you play Gausman Snell? I mean, you could. Like, if you wanted to do this, this is what you can do. So you can play a 5-man Cleveland, play, and then Gausman and Snell. It doesn't seem like the right thing to do, though, because that Atlanta game is going to put up some points. The Boston Houston could put up some. I don't know. So I don't think this is the way to do it. But you get Cleveland to kind of go off here. These guys, do put up numbers. So, so that's what Cleveland does for you. You get all those cheapos. All right, so let's do a Seattle, and then we'll do a Milwaukee. We'll save Seattle for the end because we know the Seattle's going to be the best. But let's take a look and see what Milwaukee would look like first, and we'll see what kind of pitching we can get with the Milwaukee stack hitters. So again, we like to do is we got to go through here and see what we got. We have who's in both. We have Yelich, Adames, Santana, and Turang. So let's put those guys in. Yelich, Santana, Turang, Adames. And then we have a choice between either, it looks like, Contreras or Taylor. Okay. I always like the full 5-man. Bobby disagrees, but the correlation for me is too strong. I mean, unless you're playing a really short slate, I think the 5-mans just get there more often because one just correlates with the other just way too well. You just want to stack as much as possible. Okay, so let's put in Contreras in this one. And let's see what this gets us. I'm sure it gets us a nice little combination. You think we can get both, by the way, Gausman and Rodriguez for this? That would be fun. I mean, that would be very helpful if we could. Yeah, I mean, so this is what happens. Like, you save a little money and you play the Milwaukees, then you can get to Gausman and Rodriguez really, really easily. And then, with the rest of this, you could play some of these Clevelands if you wanted that we talked about. We talk about, let's see, or even better than that. Let's go back to the Cleveland builds for a minute. I mean, you might be almost able to play Ramirez because then you could play Gonzalez 2,300. I mean, almost. I mean, you could almost get like a 5-3 with Milwaukee, Cleveland, and get these top two pitchers. So it's probably a pretty good thing to do. Now let's pull up obviously the best team in baseball. We'll pull up Seattle. What's Cal Raleigh, 8K? Oh, he's only 4,600. How is Cal Raleigh not 8K? I mean, the guy is just a freaking legend. I mean, I don't know what else you're supposed to do. But let's take a look and see what the Seattle stacks look like, and let's see who they actually have projecting starting, which is interesting because I wonder if we can get Dylan Moore starting again. Would be my hero here. So here we have Rodriguez, Hernandez, Raleigh, France, and Suarez. So it's the same 5, both of them. So we know where we're going as far as stacks go. It's not going to be that cheap though. You get Rodriguez at 6K. But then you get Suarez, and France is probably pretty cheap. Yeah, so once again, you want to play Seattle, it's probably going to look a lot like Milwaukee. You could probably get both Gausman and Rodriguez here, I think, even though it's not easy to do this, right? Here, and now you have to really pay down for these other guys. But again, you can start with the Cleveland cheapos. So you could make this work if you wanted to play these. The other thing you could do if you played a Seattle stack, if he gets in the game, is you could play the Caballero at 2,600 and replace one of these guys. I don't know exactly which one, but that's another thing you could do if you want to play Seattle. Now, obviously, if you wanted to do something like in this type of scenario, play Wu as well, you get double correlation, and now you could fill the rest of this lineup in really easily. And when I say double correlation, I mean because the pitcher's, his win is going to correlate well with Seattle's scoring. So you could do this, and then you could get actually real players in second, short, and outfield. Okay, and you have to make the decision: is it worth going from, Gausman, right, at 2,600 a man left, down to Wu at 3,400 a man left, or whatever? Imagine that it's actually pretty close, because Wu is not exactly going to blow the cover off the ball. But then, he's not exactly going to mow everybody down. But on the other hand, getting up to 3,700 a man is going to mean quite a bit. Okay. All right. So what have we looked at? And we're going to do a Saberson build next. Is what does it feel like? You know what I mean? Like what are those? If you had to choose between Milwaukee, Seattle. I mean, that's not the only choices. And listen, this is just process, and it can look totally different when the projections change later. But this is the way I think about it. Which feels the best? The Seattle one, the Milwaukee one, the Atlanta one, or the Cleveland one? If I wanted to whip out, if I was playing 4 bigger buy-ins, I'd play one of each. Because that makes sense. I think they all have their pluses and minuses, honestly. Obviously, the ones that are without Atlanta are going to be the lower owned. So maybe in my bigger buy-ins, I'll take a shot with one of those, Milwaukee's or Seattle's. Maybe that's the idea. All right, so let's go ahead, as I'm going to be very curious to see what the Saberson builds look like. Okay. And I'll deal with the Kenny G's question right now. He says, what do you set max percentage for 20 maxes? I don't set max percentages for anything at the beginning. After the lineups are built, I will take a look at it, and if I'm getting like 100% of something that just for whatever reason feels wrong, then I'll just manually adjust it, But sometimes I don't mind. Sometimes I honestly don't mind if I have 20 max of something having 100% of something. It really just depends what it is. So let's go ahead and build this. So I did not put the projections in yet. We're doing this literally for the first time, and we're going to do different things. All right, but the first thing we have to do is we're going to upload the projections from my file to here. And if you have a Sabersim subscription on TrueDFS, I think this preloads for you if as long as things are going well. So I always click exclude unlisted players. So it's now replaced the projections with mine. So I want to build 50 lineups, and we're going to do it over here. We're just going to build 50, and we don't need to run 1,000 freaking lineups at 5,000. We'll build a pool of 1,000. And the idea of building a big pool is that once you make changes, it's got like to exposures and whatever. It doesn't have to rebuild everything. It's going to just pick from these remaining 950 lineups that you're not choosing. We're going to keep everything the same, the default settings, and we're just going to run these first. Okay, after we run them, then we'll show you what to do with them. Okay, and I'm very curious to see what we get. I'm predicting that they pay up for pitching and do not play lineman. I'm going to predict that SaberSim gives me a bunch of Rodriguez, Gausman, and then a bunch of Cleveland. That's going to be my prediction, but we will see. And then I think you'll get a kick out of what we're going to do next year. We'll see. Finalize the lineups. All right, so look at that. Cleveland right off the bat with Gausman and Harrison. Oh, that's fun. All right, so let's just take a look and see what we get and then show you what all this means. So first of all, stack exposure. This looks fine for now. If I wanted to be a little more technical, I would chop off the small amount of lineups with these non-traditional stack sizes. But as long as most of them are 5-2, 5-3s, 4-3s, whatever. Not even 4-3s. So let's actually do this. Let's get rid of these. Let's play 0 4-3s. Oh, unable to meet exposures. All right, we'll just kind of leave it like this then. So team stacks, it's actually giving us 45%, 46% Cleveland. One thing that's interesting though is you'll see here on the right it says pool exposure. So you'll notice that I built 1,000 lineups. If we ran this all the way through all 1,000 lineups, I would only get 18% Cleveland. It's just that 46%, of the top ones, right? So just a lot of Clevelands are at the top of the top 500 or top 1,000, whatever. That's why. Next thing I want to do is I want to look and see what players, like the pitchers, we're getting here, just to see. And as I mentioned, a bunch of Rodriguez and Rodriguez and Gausman, as I mentioned. So Gausman 75%, Rodriguez 55%, and then Kyle Harrison 30%. The next thing I'll do is I will go to min uniques and I'll try to change this to number 2, just reduce risk a little bit. And then after that, I'll kind of see how this changes everything. So here, once I made min uniques 2. Now we get more Milwaukee, actually, which is interesting. The next thing I want to look at is how these lineups break down by 5-man stacks. So Milwaukee, even though Cleveland's the highest owned overall stack, Milwaukee I have the most 5-man. So it is good to see that the actual SaberSim builds are validating what we want to do here. However, there's one thing that we kind of cheated. You see here on the right where it says sorting by projected score? Well, what that means is that they're ranking these just by median projection, okay? Which is not really what you want. So what you want to do here is change this to something else. So what I like to do is change it from that to Saber score, and depending on what type of slate we're playing, we're going to resort these. Now here, we like to play large slates with like 1K to 10K or even more customers. Let's make it 10K to 50K for the lottery, and let's see how things change. Have things changed, right? Now you take a look, and you will see, first of all, it's a little more pure as far as the stack exposure. And now when you look at team stacks, now you're at 58% Milwaukee and 54% San Diego, which is something that was not the case when you just rated them by projected score. So what that's telling you is that the San Diego and the Milwaukees, for example, are really good GPP, kind of lower owned upside type plays. Okay, so in the lottery type tournaments, I might play some this type of ranking system. Okay, And when you look at the pitchers here, I wonder if this is much different. So here, you're getting 62% Kyle Harrison and 20% Johan Oviedo. Okay. Now this is GPP and this is baseball, right? When you sort everything by median, you get everything that we talked about in the projection source. You know, we get the Gausman, we're getting the Rodriguez, we're getting Milwaukee, we're getting Cleveland, whatever it is. One thing we didn't see too much come up was Atlanta because it's just kind of hard to get to them. So it just depends on what type of slate you're playing, which of these types of builds you want to make. Now that's one thing. The other thing that we want to do is we want to use the contest sim tool and see if that makes any difference. So within contest simulation settings, we're going to add a contest simulation, and we already have the flagship MME pre-selected, which means about 25% to first, 20% of entries played, 5,000 people in it, whatever. We're going to do 50,000 sims. We're going to save the settings, and now we're going to run the contest simulation. And then we're going to see how that might change what type of lineup builds we get. And as I'm doing this, it hopefully answers a lot of some people's questions where they say, boy, I used your projections, I ran the same stuff, and why did I not get the same things that you got? Because it's different. I mean, it depends on the settings, it depends on how you want to approach it. Okay, so here we go. So right here, you have we have a whole new set of projections, excuse me, a whole new set of lineups. And let's take a look and see what these look like. So as far as team stacks go, it's still Milwaukee, San Diego, Cleveland, Atlanta. But there's one other drop down that you can change here. Now I want to sort this by flagship MME ROI and see if that changes anything. Aha! Now we're back to something different again. So now again, this is where we are. We've put our projections up. We've run it the normal way with projection, just with listing them by top median scores. We've run a contest sim, and now we are running it specifically for the lottery. And then we are sorting not just by projected score, but by what the simulated ROI of each lineup is. And now let's see what we get. Well, first of all, as far as stack exposure, I would probably have to X some of these out, but team stacks, once again, Milwaukee. But now you get the Cubs and Arizona kind of creeping up into the ecosystem here, okay? And when it comes to players, now we're back to the guys that we wanted in the first place. We're back to Gausman, Rodriguez, and Harrison, okay? I personally, this would be probably the construct that I would go with. See a couple of Muller lineups here. This is probably the lineup constructions that I would kind of go with for the lottery at least. Now again, we could rebuild for different types of tournaments, but I think this is what I'm going to go with. So what we're going to do is we are going to put these in for now. Boom. I mean, I could do it using the entry editor. And again, the lock is in for 6.5 hours, so it's going to change like a million times. But this is basically the idea. Now, again, if I did this, what I'd end up getting is probably a little bit too much variance in the big buy-ins, right? Because I set the settings here for the lottery. So I'm getting all my lineups here for the lottery. So one thing I can do, like I said, is we can kind of change it a little bit. Let's see. First, let's upload this for now. And then what you could do is maybe do another build with a different thing. So let's go back to settings. and we could add another contest sim. Did I save the walk-off somewhere earlier? No. So let's make it high stakes MME. And instead of this, we're going to make it like 2,500 buy-ins. It's a little bit different. We'll save this. And then what we can do is we can click on contests. What we want to do is we want to upload the entries file. So we'll download the template from here. Then we'll upload it. So it's got my lineups in from DraftKings. See, right now it's, again, sorted by projected score or whatever. But we could then go back to we could build another one with the new contest sims. So let's do that, actually. Contest sim settings. We're going to do them both. Oh, we got to, hold on, we got to go back over here. Sorry about that. That's fine. Let's do, or we have our contest in here already. Now we're going to run it, instead of with this one, we're going to run it with the high stakes MME ROI. Makes things a little different. And then we could save it to contest this way. And we could save this one to just the two high stakes ones. And then we could, we're just going to download these two. It's fine. We'll go back into here. Up we go. And again, I'm getting a little more adept at using the entry editor. So yeah. Okay. Let's now, let's may as well do FanDuel. And again, first things first, let's just we're not going to do a full hand-built FanDuel, but what I can do is at least show you the sheets and show what I think would look like. So we would have, it looks as though Gausman and Snell kind of stand out as far as the pitching goes. Although neither projection looks that great, if you want to know the truth. I mean, you usually get guys with sheets value score over 100 on FanDuel. So I actually wouldn't mind for like a low-owned play to do something like save a little ownership and go to Brian Wu. To deal with Kenny G's question, I'll do this right. So why do you like Cleveland? It's not the question I like them. They just have good value. You know what I mean? Like if you could build some lineups with both pitchers and with top pitchers and get there. I particularly do not. I prefer not to play them. I like the other ideas. I like paying down a little bit of pitching and playing the guys like Milwaukee that we kind of discussed, or Seattle. But in FanDuel, I actually wouldn't mind taking a shot at, it's either going to be Snell with the ownership discount off of Gausman, or paying down maybe to Wu, or even Maeda. And Maeda is a pretty good bit of ownership. You got a big ownership break there as well. So why don't we do that? Let's build just for fun. Okay. Go into FanDuel. We're going to build. Let's just build this. So we'll build one with Snell, and then we'll build one with who did I say? With Wu, for example. So we're going to start with Snell, and let's take a look and see what FanDuel stacks that we would kind of like here. Let's take a look. Now here you have that big gap between Atlanta and San Diego. But it's interestingly, for some reason, I don't have Atlanta being owned as much as San Diego is, probably because of the of the price. Getting San Diego is pretty strong value over here. It's pretty interesting. And other kind of lower owned options might be, once again, Milwaukee or maybe Toronto. So I think something like San Diego, Toronto might make some sense. The only issue with that would be that you can't play Snell and then a pure 4-4 because you're playing San Diego. But you could play maybe Atlanta, Toronto, or you could play Milwaukee. So let's start with the. You know what? We'll build like a 4-3-1. Let's use the San Diegos. So it's this. First of all, it's the same four guys, right? Actually, that's not true. It's Tatis, Soto, Kim, and Sanchez. So let's put them in, and then we'll do the same thing. We'll do a Saberson build, and then we'll get out of here. So we'll put Sanchez. We'll put in. Let's put Kim at shortstop for now. We'll do Turang over here. Wait, where is Turang? Turang. Oh, he's not. He's in Milwaukee. That's where he is. I'm gonna put Soto, and we'll put Tatis. All right. So 3K a man, and it's got to be like a 3-1, right? Because you have to play guys from at least 3 teams. You can't just play 5 Padres and 4 of somebody else. So let's take a look and see what our favorite is. It's probably going to be Toronto, right? That's what we said. Do you think it'd be Toronto or Atlanta? And Atlanta's, we did Milwaukee on DraftKings, so let's do Toronto and see what we get over there. Well, you're going to see Merrifield is pretty cheap. We could probably play him at second base, so why don't we do that? Let's just see what these Toronto guys look like again. Oh, this is DraftKings, sorry. Guerrero, Belt, Guerrero, Varsho. So let's start with those. So we'll do Varsho. He's probably pretty cheap, right? Varsho, yep. And then we'll play Guerrero over here. What I think I want to try to do, yeah. And then probably maybe like a one-off from the Atlanta game. Can you get like Austin Riley here somehow? This would be pretty easy if you just get away with that. Almost, not quite. Austin Riley's 4,300 actually. But this is a good start, right? And you could put you're basically your favorite $3,300 one-off. But if you want a $3,600 one-off third baseman, but if you wanted to do it, the fancy way, let's just go and pull up the projections and see what's a good-looking 3,600 or so. You can go back to Hassan. Oh, Kim, we already played him. Oh, what you could do is you could move Kim maybe to third base. I wonder then maybe is Arcia cheap enough at shortstop maybe to play him? Let's see. Boom. Let's go. Congratulations. So that is a real good one with Toronto and San Diego with Snell. Now, if you didn't want to do that, if you wanted to play Wu, then I wonder if you could just do a full Atlanta thing. Okay? So we'll play Wu, and then let's just build with all the Atlanta guys we want. And that would be Riley, Acuna, Olsen, and Ozuna, I guess. So let's put those guys in. And we're not going to worry about the price yet because we're just going to see if we can get them in. Acuna 5,100. Wow. Olsen. These guys are so expensive, but you know what? Good for DraftKings, good for FanDuel as well to make that possible. All right, so can you play this? I mean, this is tough. I mean, to get this is why Atlanta is not going to be that popular. It's hard to get to these guys. So at $2,350 per man, I mean, you probably have to play Vaughn, Grisham, or Pilar. So instead of, say, I don't know, what's Pilar? Is he under 3K at least? Let me just see. Kevin Pilar, outfield. All right, we got to play him. And then we can get rid of, say, Riley maybe, or Olsen. I mean, it comes hard. It's still 2,800 a man, but now you could probably get maybe Milwaukee guys in. So let's see what that looks like. Milwaukee, I think that's where you get to play the 2-ring. Second base shortstop at 2,300. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then you play Contreras here. You could get you could probably get Yelich if you want. And then somebody cheap at shortstop. And just pick your favorite cheapo at shortstop and do that. Let's see what that looks like. Because the Seattle guy, you could play him. So you could get to Atlanta if you play down to Brian Wu, and I think that's pretty reasonable. Let's do a FanDuel build with draft with whatchamacallit, with Saberson as well. See what that looks like. And I imagine that it's going to be I was about to say all the Padres, but they look to be pretty owned. So let's just take a look. Let's upload the FanDuel projections. And we're going to do the same thing. All right, first, we're just going to build your regular, your regular vanilla. We'll build 50 lineups. We don't need to build a zillion, we'll roll 1,000. Don't need to do anything else as far as minimums go. So I'm feeling some Milwaukee tonight. I guess that's the deal. I hope that wind isn't blowing in because I'm going to have to adjust that. But you know what? If the wind blows in, the projections will change, and I won't get to them. So there you go. Yeah, Joe, you're going to want to go back to do the DraftKings ones. We did a lot of different variations of them. All right, so we'll try to get to the same thing here. So again, FanDuel, this is just your straight, regular non-contest sim kind of build. Let's see, stack exposure. Not as many 4-4s as I would like, so I'd probably mess with this a little bit. But in general, you're getting team stacks. Wow, like 100% Padres. Wow. That is very, I guess it's because Tyrone Taylor is 2,200. I guess that's the, and you got Santana at 2,800 hitting third. Yeah. Oh, actually, those are the Brewers. Hold on. Why is San Diego so cheap? Oh, Bogarts is 2,800. Kim, 3,200. Sanchez, 2,600. Yeah, I see why. But, this is, how is this being, it's actually being rated by large slate, which is very interesting. So we're going to get to that question. And someone said, what's the max that you'll play of a team? Do I have it in me to play 90% San Diego over 50 lineups? Let's try to mess around a little bit. First, let's make it to min uniques 2. And let's see what that does to the exposures. All right, at least it brings it down to only 82% San Diego. Wow. And the next thing I want to do, again, like we did with DraftKings, is we're going to use the contest simulation settings. Same type of thing. We're going to save the settings. And again, we're going to run the contest simulation and see if that does anything for us. Or if we're still just going to get the whole pile of Padres. It's almost like an alliteration. Pile of Padres. Definitely we're off to let's see this. All right, so here we ran the simulation. It doesn't seem to be that different, but what we want to do is we want to change. So now we're changing the look of this. How are we rating these now? Now we're rating them by, oh, sorry about that. We're going to rate it by flagship MME ROI. So now this is a little bit different now, right? Now you're still getting some San Diego, but it's not nearly as severe. Okay. Now you're getting almost as much of the Red Sox and the Braves. So this is actually looking like a pretty promising build. So what I want to do is now I want to tweak this a little bit. So let's get rid of some of this, what's the analytical term? Crap. Out of the, I don't know, the 4 zeros, even the 4 twos. We'll keep the 4 2 twos just for funsies. But aside from that, we're going to keep them like this, and now we're going to see how it changes. Still mostly San Diego, but we're getting Atlanta, some San Francisco, some KC. So to me, this looks like a really good, kind of cool, and look, the highest owned pitcher is John Gray. So to me, this is a, you know, this is what a, like an MME kind of portfolio of nonsense looks like. And that's really all baseball is a bunch of nonsense lineups. And just hope that variance is on your side. So let's change what I had here. So the point is that you can use SaberSim in lots of different ways, you know? So let's, and again, we're going to put these kind of like lottery buy-in type lineups even in the bigger buy-ins, which is not the right thing to do. We're going to have to change that a little bit later. We're going to rebuild with different settings, I suppose, for those tournaments. But it just shows you that like that there's a lot of things you could do with SaberSim, and if all that seemed like really fast, it's just because I'm getting good at it. You know, I'm getting just faster at it. Trying to keep it as slow as possible, but you got if you want to use SaberSim to build your lineups, you just got to play with it a little bit. It's got to be a little bit practical. But listen, that doesn't mean you have to use SaberSim to build your lineups. Like I said, you could build some really good hand-built stuff, just basically what I went through, you know. Now, the one thing you also notice, which I forgot to do, is set a minimum salary. Like some of these are like 4,400 left on the table, so we got let's fix that at least. So let's rebuild. Let's go back to settings, build settings. See, sometimes they'll be in a mood. Sometimes FanDuel will be in a mood. So we have to let's rerun the contest sim with a new minimum salary. And then we'll save those, then we'll get out of here, I think. But listen, if you guys want to know what the best plays are, I'll tell you, like right now, it's going to be, hold on. Oh no, we gotta rebuild the whole thing. Sorry about that. Let's build line. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, leaving 6,000 on the table is not necessarily the best. Oh, so you want to know who the best plays are? So on DraftKings, it is, well, Braves, Brewers, who else did I say? Seattle, Cleveland with value. And then the pitching would be Gausman, Rodriguez, and not Anderson, whatever his name is, Harrison. I did not check, but I'll come up with something. Hold on, I'll pull up the bets in a second. We'll do Min Uniques 2 again, and then we'll run the contest sim. We'll do this again. Yeah, I'll take a look at the sports betting thing before I get out of here. And this is just for my own benefit because, let's see, we're going to rate these by, again, we're going to rate them by flagship ROI, which is good. Stack exposure, 4 threes, 4 2s, and 4 zeros. Milwaukee's, Mets even, Reds, I love it. This is great. So we're going to save all these to the CSV. Bobby and I got very unlucky. I want to say unlucky. Just collapsed. We had Colin Morikawa plus 29 to 1 to be the best non-score adjusted golfer, and he was a huge favorite after the first 2 days. And then he just got rolled. Can I tell you? Let's see. I'll just fix these. And again, it's probably better to use the entry editor. SaberSim, getting better at it with DraftKings. I'm still not particularly good at it with FanDuel, so I'm going to keep doing it this way. We're going to check out probably the most important thing in a second before we have to get out of here. And of course, the most important thing is what's going on in the European Masters. So we're going to check that out in a second. That's right. As the underdog, they're up 2-0. They're going to kill people. Let's go. All right. Bets. All right, let's do that. Let me just, again, we're just doing this kind of by feel here, but let's see if anything stands out. All right, so baseball, I don't want to bet on tennis. So baseball. No. Oh my God, that is this could be actually not bad. So Tigers Yankees under could be interesting. So I think Severino's improving and Olsen's not bad. So maybe that's okay. Let me see. No. Again, it's got to really just stand out for me to like it. Mets, no. I mean, Texas is probably going to win, but minus 135, is that a good price? It probably is. But I have just no edge there. I can't really gauge that. I don't know. Twins, Padres. Wainwright, this disaster. Who knows? I don't know. I just have unless it really just stands out. I'm just not going to have an opinion on much anything, honestly. So let's just do it, just for something to do. We will take. You know what? I got to actually do it. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. So I'm going to play Tigers, Yankees under for the usual amount. Oh, you gotta. Hang on. So we're going to do that. I mean, my record's like impeccable here. But let's just see. All right. Enter wagering amount. All right. We're going to play for 180, which is the usual amount, as Mortimer and Em would say. And we're in. All right. That'll do it. Good luck, everybody. And I'll be there live at 6 o'clock.